Hello, folks, and welcome to the Stories section. We offer stories on different topics. If you like our stories, make sure to hit like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to press the bell icon to get the stories as soon as we post them. Help us grow so we can upload more stories. Now, without further ado, let's get right into today's story.
The Contraband Cure, a corporate revenge. A billionaire's internship.
My name is Ethan Hayes. I spent 2 years inside the fortress of Apex Biopharma, not as a careerist, but as a spy on a self-assigned mission. The outside world saw a capable but unremarkable junior associate. They didn't see the silent, second-generation billionaire behind the desk, the heir to Hayes Logistics, a global enterprise built on knowing where every single thing on Earth is or should be at all times. I came to Apex to learn vulnerability, to understand the corporate mechanics that allow empires to grow so large they become lawless. It was supposed to be a case study. It became an emergency. Apex Biopharma, run by CEO Marcus Kaine, wasn't just big, it was arrogant. Marcus, a man whose tailored suit screamed success and whose eyes held the cold emptiness of a pure opportunist, had secured his place through calculated ambition. He was married to Clara Kaine, a woman from one of New York's oldest, most respected families, a necessary, beautiful trophy whose moral foundation, I would soon discover, was the precise opposite of his own. Marcus's true allies weren't in the boardroom, they were the shadows, the cartels providing the product, the mafia managing the logistics, and the network of deep-seated government officials ensuring the entire operation was shielded by corrupted legality. I was looking for operational insight. What I found was a systematic rot designed to profit from human ruin.
The banned ingredient.
My descent into this nightmare began with a mundane task, an internal audit of the supply chain for Silatium. This new blockbuster drug, a supposed miracle pain reliever, was projected to generate billions and was already approved for international export. My expertise is logistics. When I cross-referenced the raw material manifest with the procurement data, a pattern emerged involving a material labeled Compound 407. Apex's internal records flagged it with a generic, non-specific internal code, but the paper trail was clumsily routed through a phantom shell company called Aethel Inc. I ran the internal shipping manifests through Hayes Logistics' proprietary satellite mapping software. The raw ingredients were consistently delivered via a small fleet of unflagged private maritime vessels, docking not at legitimate ports, but at a discreet, unregistered industrial pier in the Gulf of Mexico, historically linked to known smuggling operations. The final, sickening piece of data came when I breached the Aethel Inc. manifest, a process that took 3 nights of specialized coding. Compound 407 was in reality a Schedule I synthetic analog, a potent, fast-acting opioid derivative. It was the cartel's newest product, banned in the EU and most of Asia, but given a clean bill of health here in the US by Marcus's contacts. Silatium wasn't a cure, it was a Trojan horse. The addiction was the feature, not the flaw. I knew I couldn't go through standard channels. The network of corruption was too vast. I needed a pure vector. That's when I found Agent Draco Reyes, the name that repeatedly came up in internal affairs records as the cleanest agent the FBI had. A man who refused promotion 3 times to stay in the field, known for his relentless pursuit of justice. Our first meeting in a subterranean DC library was pure paranoia. I had 3 security sweeps running before I even spoke. "Agent Reyes," I began, laying out the first tranche of evidence on an encrypted single-use drive. "This isn't just organized crime. This is a supply chain subsidized by addiction and legalized by corruption." Reyes, a man whose face was worn by years of fighting cynicism, examined the documents, the flowcharts, the ingredient analysis, the fraudulent approval signatures. He didn't blink. He only asked questions about chain of custody and verifiable links to Marcus Kaine. "This data is explosive, Hayes," he finally said, his voice a low rumble. "But Kaine is a citadel. He's shielded by the FDA stamp. We start building a case in the shadows, using your inside position. I can't trust anyone in my division. Kaine has bought the furniture. We operate off the books. Every move is a risk of treason and execution. Are you in?" "I'm in, Agent," I confirmed. The stakes had just gone from corporate espionage to life or death, and the intensity began its sharp, focused rise.
The setup.
For the next 2 months, I became Reyes's internal ghost. I fed him documents establishing the cartel connection and the scale of the money laundering. I was preparing the final, irrefutable link: the direct communications between Marcus Kaine and his network of government officials and cartel liaisons. Marcus stored all his most incriminating digital evidence on a dedicated, air-gapped server cluster in his private office at the Billionaire's Row penthouse, known internally as the Vault. Accessing it required high-level corporate security credentials and a specific coded sequence. I designed a specialized firmware-level extraction tool, a process that required bypassing military-grade tripwires. On a Tuesday, after 2 weeks of preparation, I made my move. I used my logistics credentials to access the 50th floor, navigating the silent marble hallways. The extraction took 17 minutes of pure, breath-holding focus. I successfully copied everything: the names of the senators taking payoffs, the judges ensuring legal protection, the detailed ledger of cartel money transfers. It was perfect. I had won. But victory in this game is just the sound of the next door locking behind you. As I disconnected the drive and turned towards the exit, the floor was plunged into a blinding, surgical white light. A digitized, calm voice, Marcus's voice, echoed from the hidden environmental speakers. "Ethan Hayes, congratulations on your promotion to senior spook. Unfortunately, the server room fire suppression system you just triggered is actually just a very expensive trap. The drive you have is merely a copy of the decoy data I created for this exact purpose." Marcus Kaine stepped out of the shadow, casually leaning against the polished steel of the vault door. He was in a smoking jacket, holding a glass of aged scotch. "You're talented, Ethan, but predictable. You thought a billionaire couldn't have a better IT department? I knew you were too quiet, too clean. My internal security flagged every unusual packet sent from your workstation starting 6 weeks ago." Marcus took a slow sip. "Your extraction tool was designed to steal. Mine was designed to warn me and simultaneously send a pre-written statement to the board, detailing your fraudulent corporate espionage. You are now formally ruined, professionally and legally." He stepped closer, his scent expensive and dangerous. "I know about Reyes. He's a dead man walking thanks to you. I'm letting you leave, Ethan, because if you vanish now, it looks like a guilty escape. If you die here, it looks like a tidy cover-up. You get to live long enough to see your family's fortune bleed dry defending you from the legal charges I've already filed. Go and tell your FBI friend that the game is over." I sprinted. I didn't pause for dignity or a fight. I knew the moment I walked out, the FBI, the DEA, and Marcus's private security would be looking for me. I had achieved peak intensity, only to realize I was standing on a pinnacle of quicksand. I lost the data, I was exposed, and Reyes was compromised. My initial plan was devastated. It was time to form a new plan.
The Blackmail and the Alliance.
For 3 weeks, I ceased to exist. I lived out of a sparse underground bunker near the Hudson, communicating with Reyes only through intermittent bursts on an encrypted ham radio that only a former CIA operative could crack. The intensity was low, but the despair was high. Marcus's countermove was surgical. He used the board's fear of scandal, leveraging my espionage to solidify his dictator-like control. He discredited Reyes's nascent investigation by leaking falsified internal reports that painted the agent as a rogue operative obsessed with Apex. The Citadel was impenetrable. Now, the plan was not about accessing data. It was about dismantling Marcus's emotional and political shields. We needed the one person who could bypass all physical and digital defenses, the one person Marcus took for granted. Reyes, during a brief, coded exchange, offered the only path forward. "Hayes, you can't fight an empire from the outside. You need the queen, Clara Kaine." Reyes's voice crackled. "She's the only person who can access his personal space without arousing suspicion. But she's a long shot. Clara Kaine." I began researching her as thoroughly as I researched the cartel route. I learned about her charity, the Kaine Foundation, a genuine, ethically rigorous organization dedicated to public health. I learned about her childhood, her moral rigidity, and the quiet despair in her public appearances. She was the polar opposite of the man she married. I found her at an isolated foundation retreat in upstate New York. I approached her as Ethan Hayes, not the disgraced junior associate, but the heir to a family who understood moral obligation.
"Mrs. Kaine, I have something you need to see about your husband," I said, handing her a hard copy of a single, deeply researched document detailing the specific dependency rate of silatium in its early trial phase. She read it, her face slowly turning to ash. "I married Marcus for stability, not morality. I always kept the two separate," she said, her voice barely audible. "But this is active poisoning." Over the next month, our clandestine meetings became frequent, tense, and deeply personal. We met in quiet, almost ascetic locations, museums before opening hours, forgotten university courtyards. I was drawn to the strength of her revulsion against her husband. She was drawn to my quiet, factual rage. The low intensity of the trough was deceptive. It was a period of intense trust-building and emotional vulnerability that superseded any physical danger. "I can't believe I married this monster," she confessed one day, her eyes burning with tears. "He knows I hate his ruthlessness, but he trusts me with the mundane. He trusts my disgust is passive." Clara revealed the final keys to the Citadel. Simon, Marcus's chief of staff. Simon was Marcus's human ledger, holding all the memory of the bribes and the accounts, the critical missing link of specific numbers needed to freeze the assets. And second, the physical key to Marcus's Federal Reserve safe deposit box. Marcus is meticulous. He doesn't trust digital storage for the final physical evidence.
Only he and Simon have access to the box, and Simon is terrified of the cartel. That's his weakness. This was the plan. Leverage the human element. Now we had a strategy to shut down Marcus Kaine.
The counterattack and the irreversible exposure.
The plan had to be executed on a single coordinated day. Clara's detailed knowledge was the timing mechanism. Simon always met Marcus in his penthouse office precisely at 8 p.m. every Tuesday to recite the new payoff schedules before Marcus encrypted them. Clara provided Reyes with the exact route Simon took from his office to the penthouse parking. Reyes didn't plan an arrest. He planned a collapse. At 7:45 p.m., Reyes's team, disguised as utility workers, shut down a major block of traffic near Simon's route. Reyes, in a standard unmarked sedan, initiated an interim interrogation, a high-pressure legal ambush. I monitored the audio live from the bunker. Reyes was ice cold. "Simon, we have the first wave of evidence linking Apex to the contraband. We know you run the numbers. We know Kaine has already filed for your legal incineration. Your boss is selling you out to the cartel as the fall guy. You have 30 seconds to provide the list of accounts. Your freedom or Marcus Kaine's wallet. Choose." The silence stretched. Then Simon's voice, small and broken. "It's 7 accounts. Swiss, under the code name Ethel's Shadow. I'll give you the numbers, agent, but you have to guarantee my family's safety." As Reyes secured Simon, Clara and I executed the fine, silent breach. Marcus was scheduled for a 24-hour cartel conference in the Dominican Republic. Clara, citing a fabricated family health crisis, gained access to their Billionaire's row penthouse. I was inside the building, disguised not as an IT technician this time, but as a maintenance supervisor, complete with a radio, vest, and confidence. We met in the humid, hushed atmosphere of the penthouse's library. "He keeps the key in his antique ivory chess set," Clara confirmed, her hand steady. "The White Queen. It's too obvious for his digital paranoia." I watched as she opened the base of the White Queen pawn. There it was, a single, small silver key to the Federal Reserve safe deposit box. This key represented the physical, undeniable truth. "This is it, Clara," I whispered, taking the key. "You have just fully severed your connection to him. There is no turning back." "I know," she replied, her eyes resolute. "I'm not looking back. The shared danger created a bond far stronger than fear. It was commitment."
The shutdown of Marcus Kaine and the ending.
The next morning, the final hour, at 10 a.m., I delivered the key to Reyes at the Federal Reserve Annex. With Simon's explicit time-stamped affidavit providing the necessary legal predicate, Reyes's specialized team secured a warrant to access the box. The intensity reached its zenith. We weren't fighting Marcus. We were dismantling the entire systemic corruption he embodied. The safe deposit box held not just ledgers, but original handwritten contracts between Apex, the cartel leaders, and the specific corrupt officials. This was the paper trail that proved treason. Reyes and I walked into the U.S. Attorney's office, not with a tip, but with a fully packaged indictment ready for immediate action. We presented 3 crushing elements simultaneously. The physical ledgers and contracts from the Federal Reserve box, Simon's affidavit, and the encrypted Swiss account numbers, and Clara Kaine's immediate public filing for divorce, coupled with a televised statement detailing her husband's monstrous criminal enterprise, lending unimpeachable credibility to the entire case. The consequences were instantaneous and irreversible. Marcus Kaine's plane was met by federal agents upon landing in Miami. He was arrested before he could step off the tarmac. Across the country, the officials on Simon's list, from the FDA to the Senate, were suddenly facing coordinated raids and frozen assets. The news detonated globally. Apex Biopharma stock evaporated. The problem of Marcus Kaine, the Citadel, and the corrupt system was finally irreversibly solved.
It has been 1 year since the fall of Apex Biopharma, a company now under federal receivership. The peace is real, the justice is absolute, and the commitment I found is permanent. The legal net was flawless. The weight of the evidence from the Federal Reserve Box and the witness testimony from Simon and Clara ensures Marcus Kaine will never see the outside world again. He is serving multiple life sentences for racketeering, conspiracy, and financial crimes. He lost his empire, his fortune, and his freedom, all because he confused moral purity with weakness. His ruin is total. Clara's courageous public stand made the case undeniable. She divorced Marcus and immediately used her settlement to rebuild her family's reputation through active philanthropy. 6 months ago, we made a quiet, definitive commitment to a future built on shared integrity. She became Clara Hayes. She now runs the Hayes Foundation, dedicated to corporate transparency and addiction prevention, using the resources of Hayes Logistics to fund global oversight. She found love by choosing conscience over comfort, and in doing so, became the strongest person I know. Agent Reyes is now head of a highly specialized, federally mandated task force, secretly funded and supplied with the proprietary logistics and intelligence capabilities of Hayes Logistics. The internship ended, and the heir returned to the helm of Hayes Logistics. The experience was invaluable. I now dedicate my time to protecting the vulnerable points in global systems. I learned that my inherited wealth wasn't meant to purchase comfort, but to acquire the leverage necessary to enforce justice when the system fails. The charade is over, the commitment to justice is absolute, and the quiet vigilance is now permanent.